All right, everyone. So we've got a video here from the Masked Man. Now, this one was recommended to me when I reacted to a video from Swagkage where they asked the question of what if Itachi had the Rinnegan? And I think I said, I think it was that video, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I said in that video, I thought that the video that we were watching was going to be more narrative based. Like, how would the narrative change if Itachi at some point in his life awakened the Rinnegan like how Madara did, and how would it affect the story? Like, would it change anything? I mean, obviously it would. Things would be very different if Itachi had the Rinnegan, but instead it turned out to be more, I guess, like from a power scaling perspective. Like, how would Itachi fare against other members or other characters that we've seen in the Naruto series? You know, like Obito, Madara. How would he, you know, do against them? And then someone in the comments told me about this video where it's actually more narrative based. So we're gonna go ahead and watch it. But before we do, guys, as always, I gotta let you know, if you want to support the content, you know what to do: like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And make sure to check the description for links to this video as well as the Masked Man's channel. And I'll leave a I'll even leave a link to Swagage's channel, so you can head on over there, subscribe to him, and go show him some support. And if you have any recommendations for me, just let me know about them in the comments and I will get to them. But also, just to let you know, this video is nearly an hour long, so this one might be, the video might be like a little over an hour, so just thought I should let you know. You might want to sit back and just relax. So let's go ahead and watch this video.
Yo, how's it going, everybody? It's the Masked Man. And today I have a very special guest for the channel. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Swagkage here.
Now, this is a big collab for me personally, as I started my channel very much inspired by the boy here, Swag. And I thought a good idea for the video because I've seen various videos actually ranking the Akatsuki weakest or strongest. Instead, I thought it'd be cool to put a narrative spin on it, and this time we try to rank the characters from worst to best written. Now, we can kind of get into this, but it's a little loose in terms of how you rank them. For instance, some of the members near the bottom, they're at the bottom because there isn't given much to their character versus the ones on the top, especially the top three.
So the one that we have on the very bottom actually does have plenty of screen time. He's just lame. Kind of sucks. But yeah, there's like, if you wanted to, like, you could mentally categorize these into like different tiers. It's kind of up to you where you draw the line, but I think that everybody could agree that there's definitely some that like belong higher than others, and
of course,
at a certain point, it's just kind of up to preference.
Right, exactly. So with all that out of the way, I think we can just hop right in.
So I'm just curious, before we get to the actual video, I want to ask you guys, like, in your opinion, who do you think is the let's say the best written characters, like the best three characters in the Akatsuki from a writing perspective, not a power scaling perspective, not whether you think they're cool or not, but just from a writing perspective, who in your opinion are the three best written characters in the Akatsuki? Let me know that in the comments.
Into the list. And at number 10, Zetsu. I don't think we have to explain this one at all. I really don't.
No, you really don't.
Like, so at first he seemed like really cool. He was like this weird like alien monster dude.
Yeah, he was the
had, like,
intel guy
thing going on, and you know, this like recon dude for the Akatsuki. Well, I mean, like, that made sense. I feel like they should have had somebody in that role, but like that doesn't end up like that's not really what he like. He does still do that. But he's not super vital, because like everybody else is really good at doing his job, right? Like Obito can teleport everywhere whenever he wants. He's like, you know, he's good. So like it doesn't really feel like Zetsu's super necessary. And then he turns out to be like two different characters. Like, one you can like grow, and then the other one just like attaches to him. It's really weird. And he like doesn't, and like he kills Madara, which nobody likes.
Yeah, no one was a fan of that. Here's the thing. I mean, I always thought that it would have been cool if Zetsu turned out to be like originally they were two people, and somehow they ended up, you know, conjoined together, and then we were kind of led to believe that Black Zetsu was just like Madara's own will, just given form. Which, I'm not gonna lie, I always thought that was cool, and kind of wondering why I don't see anyone else doing it. And I don't know, I mean, maybe you could say that that was just like a lie. That was something that Zetsu told Madara was possible to give an explanation for why he's here. So maybe it's not something that, you know, people can just do. I guess you could just chalk it up to it was just manipulation by Black Zetsu. But yeah, I don't like the fact that he's like the third son, quote unquote, of Kaguya. You know, you had Haguro Mahamura, and then she created Zetsu. Not a fan of that. I just, I mean, I guess Kishimoto could have done the whole Kaguya thing. I mean, you guys know how I feel about the Otsutsuki and Kaguya. I don't need to repeat myself. At least I hope you do if you've been following me for a while. But I mean, I feel like he could have done that without doing the whole twist of, you know, Zetsu was Kaguya's son all this time and he was the one manipulating everything. And it just kind of cheapens it when you find out that everything that happened in Shinobi's history was all due to the manipulation of someone. And I know Kishimoto tried to do this whole thing of with Naruto where, you know, like, oh, you're giving yourself too much credit, like, don't underestimate people, blah blah blah. It's like, no, it still doesn't. It's still bad. I'm sorry. I mean, maybe you guys disagree, but yeah, I always thought that like you could have done Kaguya, like you could do this thing where Madara, like let's say he fights Naruto and Sasuke, and he's just destroying them. He's just using the power, you know, his power combined with the power of the Ten Tails, and it would have been cool to see Madara utilize the power of the Rinne Sharingan. That would have been really cool. And that eventually it gets to be too much, and that's when like Madara like starts to realize that, okay, this is too much power, I can't, you know, control all of this. And that's when, like, you know, Kaguya immediately sees an opportunity, kind of like what happened with Sasuke when he was fighting Itachi, and Orochimaru says that the chakra that Sasuke was using to keep his consciousness suppressed, that's gone, and that's what allowed Orochimaru to, you know, come through. Like something like that could have happened. I feel like it would have been a lot better than Zetsu doing this and just completely pissing people off. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on that.
No, but honestly, if your most memorable moment as a character is arguably ruining one of the greatest antagonistic forces in shonen, I think you deserve to be the bottom of any list. So I think we could just move on to number 9.
Yeah.
Now, number 9, he's personally, honestly, there's some moments where I think the concept of Hidan is cool, but the execution of it for me felt really underwhelming, considering, again, the most memorable moment I can think of him isn't really for him, it's for Shikamaru.
Yeah, it's
like,
him being blown to bits.
Yeah, like, I don't know, Hidan's cool, his jutsu's cool, but there's not really much to him at all.
Hidan is super likable, and in a series with a less robust cast, he'd be a lot more memorable, right? Like, he'd stick out a lot more. But Naruto has some of the coolest, most likable characters in shonen, right, in fiction in general, right? Like, there are a lot of people who resonate with all sorts of different members of the cast of Naruto. And so, like, the thing is, he's just kind of like a gimmick and an archetype, and he's not, like, it's not like he's a poorly executed version of what Kishimoto was trying to do with him or anything, but he's just not better than any of the other members of the Akatsuki, right, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, totally. I think Hidan is a lot better. If you're talking duos, I think the Kakuzu-Hidan duo maybe could rank a lot higher, them together than them separate, because I think Hidan, for me, I like him a lot because he contrasts Kakuzu. But here we're just talking about them in a vacuum. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But in a vacuum, Hidan isn't really anything special.
He did do some. I will say, he does do something really big, more important than, you know, some of the people that are above him, and that's he kills Asuma, which is huge for Shikamaru, but like
it is.
I mean, that's not like a huge body, right? Like that's not particularly impressive or serious.
And one thing that kind of takes away from it is that like he wouldn't have been able to do it if he didn't have like someone else helping him. You know what I mean? Like, because essentially, if you remember, if it wasn't for Kakuzu, Hidan was essentially gone. Because remember, he ended up getting his head cut off by Asuma thanks to Shikamaru's plan, and how he, like, you know, figured out how his ability works and everything. And it's just excuse me, it's just it does kind of take away from him at least a little bit. Like his accomplishment of killing Asuma was Like you had like a ton of help from someone else. If it wasn't for them, you're pretty much gone.
He's defining.
Right.
I feel like there might be even a couple people watching like, wait, who's Asuma? So
Hey, come on,
No,
put
but
some
even
respect on
then,
Asuma's
him
name.
killing Asuma, that was just more to push Shikamaru as a character. It doesn't do anything for
Yeah,
Hidan
exactly.
other than he killed someone that we all liked. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. So at number 8, we have Conan. Conan is a tricky one because I like what we saw from her, especially in that fight against Obito. But you and I talked about this before. She doesn't really have her own character at all.
Yeah, she just kind of exists in Nagato's shadow, and it's one of those things with Hidan, right? It's sort of similar, but it's like a different issue. It's like it's sort of like the Hidan thing is that Hidan isn't like standout compared to the rest of the Naruto cast. Conan is sort of the same problem, but a lot more concentrated, where she is living in the shadow of Nagato. And unlike somebody like Kisame, who we'll get to later, we never really see her independent from him. And even when she is by herself, she like Nagato still somehow manages to be the focus. That's like all she's still talking about. And again, she is cool. I don't think anybody would dispute that like Conan is likable. Nobody's gonna
No,
sit
I
here
mean,
and call
yeah.
Conan, like a terrible character or anything.
I
and
just kind of
think
wish
she has one of
Kishimoto
the
would have done
coolest,
more with her. That's
jutsu or like power sets in the series. It's very visually interesting, and she did a bunch of really neat stuff with it. But like in terms of overall impact, in terms of it's really hard to like resonate with Conan because she's just kind of like a henchman, you know. With like the bigger characters, you know, you can look and you can see some of yourself in them, but Conan's really just following Nagato's orders because she believes in him more than she believes in herself. And then this continues when she fights Obito, where she's, you know, now her belief it's shifted to Naruto. She's got a lot of faith in him to do what you know, she thought that Nagato should have been doing. And it's again, it's not bad. It's just that she's not really, like you said, she's not really her own character.
Yeah, she's definitely she's a great support character, I would say.
Yeah.
Like I feel like she shines when she has someone else in the lead. And again, you used Nagato and Naruto as great examples there because that just is the case. And it's one of those things where Conan is, yeah, she's just there, it feels like. And I feel like that's the majority of the female cast in Naruto, if I'm going to be honest, with the exception of a few there. They're like, yeah, they're there, they do their thing, but that's about it. And also she was there she was a part of the original founding members. She wasn't actually,
she was a part of the original 3.
All of these other members, they're recruited, they're given a lot more time to stand out as individuals. Her, on the other hand, again, her biggest moment is her losing to Obito, which big, awesome, cool fight, but that doesn't really contribute anything
and she
to her, to add layer to her, complex, none of that. So
I mean, she is the one who figured out like Obito's ability only lasts for like 5 minutes, and that's actually pretty significant. I mean, I don't think anyone else managed to figure that out. Like even Kakashi, like no one managed to figure that out, but she did, which is kind of impressive.
Yeah, Conan's just, she's all right. Like I don't dislike her or anything, but yeah.
I agree. I think that there should have been more to her. I definitely think she should have been like second in command. But she's, I guess she technically is, but she doesn't feel like it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, no, because all the other members are so imposing.
She's also like fake second in command because Pain was the leader, but Obito was the real leader, and then also Madara was the real leader, and then Zetsu was the real leader. Yeah. So Conan, she's not even. I don't even know where she stacks up in the hierarchy anymore. But again, I like her well enough, but just compared to the other members of the Akatsuki, she falls a little bit short. I don't even know if I want to say she falls short because like that, there's a negative connotation to that, and it's not really her fault. It's just, again, like with Hidan, the other characters are just better.
So with that, we can move on to number 7. Now, number 7, he was actually my favorite member of the Akatsuki when I first got into Naruto, and I think he's super cool, super dope. When I think of characters that I feel like really should have been expanded upon a whole lot more, especially knowing the lore of his backstory and knowing the weight of that now, is Kakazu. Kakuzu for me
Yeah.
is like super sick, but that's about
So
it.
Kakuzu's dope. He
So-
looks really cool, and he's got a bunch of like awesome powers. The biggest like criticism that you could levy at him is that he's bland. Which I
He
mean,
is kind of bland,
I guess
yeah.
at like you know, like what first glance, very surface level. Sure, maybe, but I mean, I don't even think that that's like true. Like, yeah, he's like stoic and he takes his job seriously, but he has this really cool quirk where the dude just likes money, right? Like he likes
Right,
hustling and killing people, and I think it's kind of funny. And he's responsible for like a lot, right? Like he adds a lot to Hidan. And even though we don't have Hidan very high at all, I do still think that the chemistry there is enough to you know, like I think it makes Kakuzu just a little bit more valuable. I think that, you know, like him being responsible for one of Naruto's landmark moments, the development, and, you know, like showing off the Rasen Shuriken is pretty neat. Like, so he doesn't move the story forward significantly.
Not
like
really,
some of the
no.
more highly ranked
And
ones
that's
like Akatsuki do, but he has some of the
like that's one thing that all these characters that we just saw, well, I guess maybe except for Zetsu, but that's like what was it, Hidan, Konan, and what was the other one? Oh yeah, Kakuzu. Like, yeah, a lot of these characters, unfortunately, like they don't really have that much of an impact on the story, again, if you leave Zetsu out of it. And a lot of them just exist to sort of, you know, prop up other characters. Like Hidan and Kakuzu, I feel like are mostly there to prop up Shikamaru and Naruto. And unfortunately, although it could be because, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but I do remember hearing that when the Konoha Crush, or excuse me, the Akatsuki suppression arc, when that was happening, like Kishimoto wasn't really feeling all that well. So because of that, he had to he couldn't like do everything he wanted to do in this story, so he had to kind of cut it short. I could be wrong. Correct me if I am in the comments. So I guess because of that, we didn't get a chance to like get to know more about Kakuzu and Hidan. Like, it would have been awesome if Hidan and his ability and that whole like Jashin thing got explored more in this series. And yeah, I know some people are going with the theory of Jashin, like who he is really, like what clan specifically he belongs to, and that theory, I do know about that, and I don't know if that's gonna happen or not. I mean, I guess we'll see. But yeah, it would have been nice if we got to see more of that, or if Kishimoto like expanded on both of these characters, especially with Kakuzu and his whole thing of, you know, him actually being really old, you know, being alive during the during Hashirama's time. Like, it would have been really cool if we got to see more of that. And again, I don't know if it's because, like I said, what I heard of Kishimoto, like the fact that he wasn't feeling well at the time, and because of that he had to sort of speed through some things, and or if it was just because he kind of just chose not to. Again, I could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see. Again, like I said, correct me if I am, because that's what I remember hearing, and I could be wrong. So if I am, just let me know in the comments. And all right, let's continue.
Craziest abilities that we ever get to see. Like, the hearts thing is really neat. You know, like his immortality isn't like real. It's like a different. It's a completely different kind of immortality.
Yeah, I mean, even Kakuzu,
but
I
it's
think,
still
says like there's no
very,
such
very
thing as
imposing.
true immortality. Like, the best that you can do is
There's a
just
lot to
extend
him,
your
right?
life.
Like I said, he seems like basic and bland. Like,
Same
at first
thing,
glance,
and
but there is.
I always found it interesting that Kishimoto even like brings that back in the Boruto era, where even the Otsutsuki, like, they don't have genuine immortality. They're just finding ways to extend their life. And I always thought that was interesting that he's still kind of keeping that thing still going in the Boruto era.
Is a lot, you know, like that you get, like you can look at him and like there is actually like a surprising amount of depth to him, and again, he's not like like when you compare him to somebody like Nagato, right? Like he's not you don't like hear him speak and like have an existential crisis or whatever. But he's just really cool, like you said, you know?
Yeah. I think what helps put Kakuzu above Hidan and Konan is in the series of Naruto, it becomes a recurring theme of morally gray antagonists, right?
Yeah.
Or antagonists that have some sort of tragedy in their background that help you sympathize. I think Kakuzu adds a unique flavor to the Akatsuki, just being a dude, like you said, who just wants money and wants to hustle. And he's an extremely cool character, and unlike Konan, he is his own character, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's very independent. Like you feel like he doesn't even want Hidan around. He can do stuff by himself.
And I think a piece of something that could mean anything.
He says it right there. There's no such thing as immortality. He's just prolonging his life.
But him name dropping Hashirama, being like, "Hey, I survived the fight with the first Hokage." God knows how he survived the fight with the first Hokage.
Hashirama just pity spared him. He was just like, "All right, dude, get out of here." And Kakuzu was like, "Yes, sir."
Returns to his village, and that's why they torture him. I was like, did you even try to swing at him?
I mean, like, do you not know who that guy is?
Number 6, and number 6 is similar to Kakuzu in the sense that I think both of them are cases of it's what they do is a lot more heavy than maybe what their backstory is, because neither of them really have that fleshed out backstories. And that Deidara, extremely charismatic personality, amazing fight with Sasuke. And
he's one of the best fights in the series.
Surprisingly, like he feels like a minor villain, but I mean, him capturing Gaara is huge, and like it gets the the story rolling and ship it in. Without that, a lot of major things don't actually end up happening.
Yeah, so he does do a good amount of things to push the plot, which is important for an antagonist.
Yeah, he's also our introduction to the larger Akatsuki outside of Itachi and Kisame, and he lets us know that okay, the rest of the members are also really powerful too, because he just goes in and he takes out Kazekage Gaara, and like. If this had been like any of the other kids from part 1, like it would have been like whatever, right? But this is Gaara. He's like the big one, right? Like one of the characters of around Naruto's age introduced in the Chunin exams, Gaara is the guy. For a long time, he was around, arguably stronger than Naruto. I'd argue that, like during the Sasuke retrieval arc, Gaara probably was stronger than Naruto, right? Because like he flooded that whole forest with sand, did all this crazy stuff to Kimimaro. Naruto and Sasuke's fight felt a lot less ridiculous than the one between Gaara and Kimimaro. So when you see like Deidara,
I don't know if I would say that. I mean,
just handle this guy.
Although I will say it was a lot more impressive in the anime than it was in the manga. Both of them good, but the anime like made it a lot more. Or I guess I should say had a lot more impact than the manga did.
Like it's just another day for him. It's like oh wow, okay, so the rest of the Akatsuki they're not playing around either. These guys are serious business, and like you said, he has some really likable, like attractive character traits. Like he just his thing. He's super charismatic. He's really funny.
Yeah.
The way he just keeps egging Naruto on in order to put Kakashi on edge, like by bad mouthing Gaara and talking about how he killed Gaara, and like Kakashi just like, oh my god, no, Naruto, please calm down, and Naruto just doesn't get it. That Deidara is doing this on purpose.
He doesn't get he's being played.
Sasuke, like you also said, is great. It's one of the best fights in the series. He's just really cool. Also, the explosive clay thing is like really bizarre. Like it's something like I would never have come up with, and I think it's like because it's like people who just have like explosion jutsus is already kind of wacky, and then to make like clay molds that take all this time and are really delicate just to blow them up. I think that's super sick and like really weird. It's definitely like a memorable thing for him. Like anybody who's seen Naruto, you show them any one of like Deidara's sculptures, they're gonna recognize it's one of Deidara's things. So I think that speaks to the quality of his character.
Yeah. Deidara and Kakuzu are what I would consider impression characters. They're two that leave very strong impressions in different sense. Again, with everything that you brought up with Deidara's ginormous personality and the extent he's willing to go. You know, the whole art is an explosion thing. To the point that he, what was it you said again? He rage quit DC'd against.
yeah. Before we started recording, we were talking about Datara, and yeah, like so like with the other members of the Akatsuki who killed themselves, which is like everyone from here on out. Datara's was like the only one that wasn't like nobly motivated. Right, like all of the other ones had kind of like respectable reasons for it. He just got like so mad that he couldn't beat Sasuke that he just like rage quit.
He just like, I'm rage quitting life. Just screw you.
You know, it was really in character. Like it was super on brand for him. It was really.
This is like this was.
When I was reading that, I was like, oh my god, did he just kill Sasuke?
I just want to bring that up.
And I just want to bring this up real quick. I absolutely love this. Like, dude, Naruto has, in my opinion, some of the best double page spreads I've ever seen in like a lot of manga. I mean, obviously there are a lot of other shonen, let's say shonen series that are up there when it comes to double page spreads. But dude, Kishimoto just, I don't know what it is, but his double page spreads just have like this impact. Like when you see it, it stays with you. And this is something that a lot of fans have pointed out is missing when it comes to the Boruto manga. For it's just like up until now, like this series has been going on since 2016. Okay, it's been 8 years, right? Yeah, it's been 8 years. And to this day, we still don't have even a single double page spread. And I honestly, like, I honestly don't know why that's the case. I mean, are they just waiting for like the time skip, or is it something they're just not deciding to do? I mean, even Dragon Ball Super, like that has double page spreads sometimes, not always. I kind of wish that there would be a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of times it's just, I don't understand why they're not including them. Like there have been moments where I feel like it would have been better if they used a double page spread instead of just one. Like for example, when Naruto and Sasuke first go into their, you know, like Naruto goes into Kyuubi Chakra mode, or he goes into Kurama Avatar mode, and Sasuke goes into the full Susanoo, and you see that shot where, you know, you see Jigen down there, and he's, this was mostly done in the anime, and I think that the anime actually did it better as opposed to in the manga, where it's an overhead shot, but in the manga it was an overhead shot, but in the anime it was like you were seeing things from Jigen's perspective, and like, I wish that the manga would have done that, where it was a double page spread where in the center you can see Jigen and he's looking up and you're seeing these, you know, like giant like kaijus looking down at you. And then of course the story would go on and he just wrecks both of them like it's nothing. And it's you know, it's I'm already not a fan of that, but I get why they were doing it, to make, you know, to show you how much of a threat this guy is. But I feel like it would have been a lot more impactful if that was a double page spread. And then later on, I feel like what would have been a better, or it would have been a good double page spread also, or a good moment in the story for a double page spread, which was when Ishiki first gets shown. Like that would have been good for a double page spread. And then after that was when you see Baryon mode. And then later on when Kurama leaves, I feel like instead of just one, you know, just one page where it's, you know, the entire page, you see, you know, Kurama disappearing. Or no, I don't think it was even the whole page. It was just like a big panel and you see Kurama disappearing. I feel like that, if they had a double page spread specifically dedicated to that alone, like you see, again, like you're seeing things from Naruto's perspective. You see him, you know, you see him in the corner, and he's looking up, and you're seeing Kurama just disappearing. Like I feel like that would have been so much better. It would have been so much more impactful. The way it was done was just kind of, it was whatever. And yeah, I feel like it's like I really wish they would incorporate them into the Boruto manga. I really don't understand why they're not doing it, because I feel like it would help. And that's not saying that the art for the Boruto manga was bad. I just feel like it's it's kind of missing something. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't leave the same impact that the Naruto manga did.
I mean, when I was reading that, I was like, oh my god, did he just kill Sasuke?
I just want to bring that up because it was good. So now from 5 and up, I think is where we get characters with a lot more fleshed out, I'd say, backstories, and also a lot more moments to shine than I would argue the ones on the list and below. And so at number 5 is Kisame.
Yeah, like I feel like in any other series, or like when compared to any other organization, Kisame would be a lot higher than in the middle. It's just like bad luck for him that he had to be Itachi's partner, right? And he still manages to be really compelling on his own. You know, like Conan's solo, she's down at number 8, and one of the reasons is because she was paired up with Pain. Kisame is up here, despite being paired with Itachi, and so I think he deserves props for that, because everybody respects this guy, right? Like, he's really cool. He's visually distinct. Nobody else looks like him. Like, you could see like just like 2% of a drawing of this guy, and you know exactly who you're looking at. Yeah, exactly. He's got a sick sword. Like, it's barely even a sword. It's like a big paddle. But like it's still super sick. He's got his cool shark mode. His fights with Guy are all really sick and really funny. You know, like he is also charismatic, in a completely different way than Deidara, but he still manages to be just as charismatic as any of the other members of the Akatsuki, honestly. Like, he always has something funny to say, even when he's first introduced, and I think this is a big deal, right? Because Itachi had been built up for a while, so you knew who this guy was, like, going into their introduction. Even when he was first introduced, Itachi did not completely steal the show from him, and I think that's pretty, I think that's definitely worth mentioning, because Kisame doesn't really do any of the fighting, and him being there, like, you still remember who he is. Like, he was in all the Naruto games that came out before Shippuden started airing, and what he did, like, 2 jutsu ever, and they always managed to give him, like, you know, really fleshed out, like, on brand movesets. So I don't know, I just think that he managed to leave a really strong impression early on, despite not having a whole lot to work with, and then he was expanded upon in Shippuden in ways that were, like, satisfying and you know, just like, it, like, made you like him more. And his backstory is really cool too. You know, like, he actually had fairly noble reasons for joining the Akatsuki. He was like, oh yeah, the system's, like, broken. This is all, like, really, you know, this is all really fucked up. And, you know, Obito, you seem like you got an idea, so I guess I'll try and work with you, and we can work towards, you know, accomplishing some actual change.
With Kisame and everyone above on the list, I think these are the characters with the strongest thematic to them, if that makes sense. Like, the strongest thematics. Kisame, the main thing is his loyalty. And, I mean, again, a member who committed suicide because he didn't want to spill the tea. You know, he ain't no snitch. And, I mean, back in his backstory, he killed his own squad members because, again, he didn't want any information to be leaked. So Kisame has a presence about him, and, again, he's just given a lot more time to be impressive throughout Naruto than all of the other members, and they flesh him out well. They give him some of the most insane fights in the series, the one against B, the one against Guy, and all that. And so it's just, there's a lot to Kisame, a lot more than I would have actually thought they would have given him at the beginning of the series. So with Kisame there, I think it's a fair ranking, number 5 with Kisame. I feel like that's just where he has to go, because next one, number 4, I'd say second or third favorite member in the Akatsuki, definitely one of my top 5 favorite characters in all of Naruto. I think he has probably my favorite backstory as well in all of Naruto, and that's Sasori.
This dude is so sick. Okay, so I'm not gonna hold y'all. If it were up to me, Sasori might be up a little higher, maybe above a certain Uchiha, but
I don't know if I would.
So Sasori is first and foremost, so cool.
He
like,
is. He is very cool. I feel like he's a little underrated in the fandom.
Almost entirely because of his like swag factor. Sasori is so sick. Okay, like the guy. Oh man, like there's so like he's got like his weapon is a dead Kage, and it's at the time he's introduced the strongest Kazekage ever. That's like what he uses to fight is the puppet, like a puppet version of that guy that he killed. And which, by the way, he did without that puppet, his strongest tool. So he's like a lot weaker when he fought the third Kazekage. And like that's just a thing, right? Like it's like you don't like linger on it. They're just like, oh wow, he's the one who killed the third Kazekage, and Sasori's just like, yep. And then he keeps trying to kill Sakura and Chiyo. Like he doesn't, you know, like he doesn't like,
dwell on it. He just yeah, I did.
Like, he knows how sick he is, and like the dude. So like it's impossible for like a normal puppet master to do what I'm about to say because like. For most people, like Kankuro, for example, you got to dedicate all 5 fingers of one hand to one of your puppets. When you're first starting out, sometimes you gotta dedicate all 10 fingers just to one puppet. Okay, and Chiyo does something that's pretty cool when she does the Chikamatsu's 10 puppets and she controls each of them with one finger. And Sasori was like, well, I want to be able to summon a whole lot more than that at one time, and obviously I don't have 100 fingers, so he just turned himself into a puppet and had like this string mechanism that like generates chakra strings so that he could just summon 100 and stick them on people. And he's like, yeah, when he summons them, he's like, yeah, I destroyed like a whole country with this.
Which I've always wondered about that, like how the hell did he turn himself into a puppet? Like seriously, how? I mean, his entire body is a puppet. Like, how did he? I mean, I understand an arm, like I understand a limb, but like his torso, like all those internal organs that are kind of necessary to survive. Like, how did you? How? Like, I've always wondered, like, how does that work? Like, how did that happen? I don't know. I mean, that's just always baffled me. But yeah, this is pretty insane. Like. Taking down an entire country on his own, dude, that's crazy.
So,
yeah,
get ready. Like, dude, oh man, he's so cool. When he first fights Kankuro's like, wait, you're Sasori of the Red Sand? I've bought your puppets before. Like he's got so much clout, and that's just like the cool stuff about him, right? I also think that he's a really interesting character in his own right.
I think when it comes to, I'm glad you got all that out of the way, because Sasori is one of the characters with so much hype, but he has a lot to him that backs all that hype up. Like he's not just hype.
Yeah, he's not all talk.
His backstory, when you learn of his,
because when you see the things that he could do, you understand. Oh, okay, yeah, it's understandable why people talk about him. It's sorry, because I don't want to talk over the video. It's almost the same, almost not as much, but almost the same as Madara, where you see people talk about him, and then when he finally gets introduced and he's taking on the, I think it was the 3rd division of the Shinobi Alliance, and he's just destroying them, like one man against an entire battalion, and he's just like it's nothing, just taking out every single one of them. And then of course he then he starts to progress. He activates the Mangekyo, and then he brings out the Susanoo, and then you find out he's got the damn Rinnegan. And then not only does he have the Rinnegan, and he like first thing he does is summon 2 meteors, like it's nothing. Like this guy is like, oh no dude, I'm just warming up. And then as if that wasn't bad enough, then he uses wood style, and it's to a much greater degree than what we've seen from wood style, like with Yamato. And even earlier we saw a little bit with Hashirama, where he created that sort of mini forest on that roof where they were fighting Hiruzen, the 3rd Hokage. And then of course that kind of got retconned later on when Kishimoto brought Hashirama back, and we had that whole backstory with him and Madara, and you find out, no, this is what Hashirama can really do. And it's like, oh, okay, so And yeah, it's just with Sasori it was the same thing where, you know, you hear people talk about him, and then when they actually fight him, you see, oh, okay, like, okay, we get why a lot of people talk about him. It's understandable.
He became obsessed with puppets, and he even recreated his parents into the form of puppets. And I think it was an interesting fact that I thought was so neat was he got so tired of waiting for his parents that's why he hates waiting as an adult. Like, it's little things like that I really appreciate being done with the character to really give them more personality and more complexity, because Sasori, he's this cold-hearted serial killer, but in his backstory, you can perfectly see how he got to that stage. And it's one of those things where I never felt so sad for someone who just low-key was about to murder everyone I loved and cared about in this current cast. And just because I know how the Naruto, you know how the Naruto fan base can be, but I just in case there's some crayon eaters out there, if you so much as dare bring up that Sakura and Chio beat him and Sasori's not that good, first of all, that has nothing to do with his character.
Let me.
Are you want to do it?
Let me go ahead. Yeah. Let me. All right.
Oh boy.
So
okay.
Let's explain why that is actually not even that bad. So, you take this character Sakura, who again, whatever. She doesn't do a whole lot after this, but so here's the important thing about her. She punches really hard. She got trained straight from Tsunade. That is what she does best. And also, she is a medical ninja who happens to be like really good at treating poison. Like the whole Sand Village is like sicking its medical team on Kankuro to try and save him. She's the one who has to.
She shows up and just cures him like it's nothing. They're like, oh, come on.
Right? And they're fighting a guy who's really good with poisons. Now, if it was just Sakura up against Sasori, and you were like, well, he still shouldn't have lost to her. Sure, fine. But then you take one of the best puppet masters ever, and you get rid of all of Sakura's flaws. Now Chio is able to control her. Right? So Sakura doesn't have to make any decisions. She doesn't have to worry about being quick or having like really solid reflexes. Chio's got all that covered for her. Yeah. You give her the ultimate antidote to Sasori's best weapon, his poison. And like Chio comes in there, she literally knows everything about him. She's his fucking grandma, right? Like
right.
Imagine when any of you guys' grandmas pulls up as a badass ninja, and like you gotta fight her, and she's also got like this other really powerful person with her, and I don't know, man. You might get.
She might get messed up.
She might, She might be like, well, actually, he really likes this, and this is how he does X, Y, and Z. You know, like it. And
exactly.
The other thing about it too is like she was packing the strongest puppets of all time. And also Sasori let them win, so
exactly. Sasori again he died in the embrace of his parents, which again, knowing his backstory for me was like I love how that ended with him. I just like you know, so if you want to throw a little hissy fit that he lost to in 2021, I just don't know. I don't know.
I'm just saying the resources are out there. You could be educated about this if you comment that you are letting everybody know that you could have known all this and you chose not to.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's I feel like a lot of people, specifically in the Naruto fandom, like if there's a character out there, especially an antagonist who loses to Sakura, they're quick to say, "Oh, this antagonist is lame." Like, "Oh, you lost to Sakura." I mean, come on. But it's like, dude, okay, I get the Sakura hate. I get it. I do. Here's the thing, though. Sakura is actually a lot stronger than people give her credit for. Okay, she was, like they said, she was trained by Tsunade, who not only had this monster strength, she was also taught medical ninjutsu by Tsunade, who at the time was considered to be the best medical shinobi on the planet. And like Sakura, again, people sleep on her because she does have a lot of talents. Now, granted, like Kishimoto, in my opinion, could have done better with her character. I feel like this is where his this is where he, like, because he made this decision to focus more so on the Akatsuki and let's focus on the hero side. Like, he decided to focus more on Naruto and Sasuke, even though Sasuke at the time was more of an antagonist, I guess you could say. Like, or he was still technically the co-protagonist of the series, even though he wasn't the main character. Because he chose to focus on them, characters like Sakura kind of got pushed to the side, unfortunately. But that doesn't take away from what she is capable of. Like, Sakura's no joke, okay? I mean, we're talking about someone who can shatter the ground. Like, that's you want to take a punch from that? No. I mean, it's again, you got to remember, they brought up all these good points, okay? Like, first of all, Sakura herself is no joke. And then you have Lady Chiyo, who not only was his grandmother, but is also a puppet master, who also happens to be very familiar with the puppets that Sasori was using. And Sakura, who had an antidote for his poison, his most powerful asset, or I guess you could say his most useful asset. And then, like they said, he let them win. Again, it's like people in fandoms tend to do this thing where they ignore context, where they just look at the surface and say, oh, you lost Sakura, or excuse me, you lost to Sakura. I don't like Sakura, so that makes you lame. And it's like, no, it doesn't. It's just whatever. It's something that's going to continue. There's nothing you can do about it.
Have you seen that one video? I forget that it was like, hi, my name's Jeffrey, I'm 19 and I never learned how to fucking read. Like, it's like a video like that. I'll play the clip, but that's exactly what ran through my mind.
What up? I'm Jared, I'm 19 and I never even learned how to read.
Sasori, easy.
Oh yeah, I think I remember seeing that.
Again, maybe he deserves to be a little bit higher. Maybe number 3, but that's
higher above the next person. Do you want me to get all the dislikes out of the way now, or do you?
So real talk. Number 3. So some people are gonna think we don't have him high enough as it is, and like, okay, I'm gonna be honest. I do get it. Number 3 is Itachi, and Itachi's great. Don't get me wrong. Like,
of course.
So in terms of like swag factor, like we were just talking about with Sasori, Itachi's got that in spades.
Oh,
he has
absolutely.
Moments in the whole series. I think he has maybe like the hardest line ever. When Kabuto's like, the reanimation jutsu doesn't have any flaws.
Oh yeah, I know the moment they're talking about.
Actually, your jutsu does have one flaw you failed to consider, and Kabuto's like, oh yeah, I'd love to hear it, and Itachi says, me. Like, all right, that's pretty cold. So he's really cool, and it is at this point where we reach like a brand new level of complexity and nuance to the characters, right? Because these top 3 are all like, you know, like they are S tier villains. Itachi kind of straddles the line between villain and like protagonist or like deuteragonist, right? Because like he is like an antagonistic force for a lot of the series, but it's because he like has to be, and because he has
because it made sense for his character considering
at heart. And so like objectively speaking, he probably does belong here above Sasori. The only reason I was saying what I did is because me personally, I really like me some Sasori. I think maybe he belongs up here, but I'm not gonna fault anybody for putting Itachi in the top 3.
Right.
Even if you want to put him at your number 1, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like the build up to his fight with Sasuke and the scene where you find out who he actually is.
That was wild.
Because like I've been watching Naruto and reading it since I was a kid, so
this was pretty crazy.
That I thought he was this heartless monster, and then like Madara, quote unquote.
Yeah, Madara.
And he's like, all right, hold on a second, and he just unleashes,
and he just shatters
like,
his perception of everything.
Example of like an exposition dump, which normally I hate, but for this specific, like it like completely blew my mind apart. Like my whole world was shattered when I was reading this. I was like, what? What are you talking about? There's no way. And like to take this character and redefine him and recontextualize him. And he was already great, right? Like when you thought he was evil, he was incredible as it was. But then when you take him and you turn him into a completely different character and manage to make him even cooler, like you don't ruin him, you actually manage to enhance him.
You made people like him more.
That is one of the most impressive things,
because usually
throughout his like the entire Naruto,
like usually I feel like when authors do this thing where they, and especially lately, like you notice that they do this thing where like they, you know, take this character who for a long time has been, you know, just a villain, and then they tell you their backstory and they just like expect you to feel sorry for them. And it's like it doesn't really work because it either they do it too late or they do it a little early. You know, like they never do it at the right moment. You know what I mean? But I feel like with Itachi, one thing that Kishimoto did do right is that the entire time we've seen Itachi on screen, other than the Uchiha clan massacre, we never really see him do anything evil. Like we don't see him like outright, you know, just slaughtering people. Like we never see him do that. Like his actions, when you go back, it makes sense when Kishimoto gives you this explanation. Like back in the Leaf Village, when he tells Kisame, no, we need to leave. While it does make sense when you think about him saying that, you know, we should leave because if we make too much noise, then people find out about us. And then, of course, he, you know, says that I need to rest my eyes, which again, knowing what we know now about, you know, the Mangekyo, obviously it makes a lot of sense. It's true. But then when you know, oh no, there's another layer you didn't know about. Like you see, you know what I mean? Like it makes sense when you go back and you think about it. Like it's not where he tells you his backstory and then you're expected to just forgive all their actions in the past. It's like, no, that's not how that works. But with Itachi, like it makes sense why he did what he did. And even then, it's like people still say, well, you still did something horrible. And Itachi knows that. Like he's not saying he's expecting to be forgiven because he knows he did something terrible and he expects to be punished for it. But what Kishimoto did is he basically wanted you to know like the whole context and then like kind of decide for yourself, like, was Itachi in the right or was he in the wrong? You know, like even though he did sort of prevent, you know, a lot more casualties, was it still worth doing what he did? You know what I mean? Like that's just what I love what he did here, as opposed to what I think a lot of other authors kind of fall short whenever they try to do the same thing.
A run.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I think the main thing about Itachi as to why I think a lot, I definitely couldn't have him above who's at number one. No. I'll take that one to the grave. I'm taking that one to the grave.
I'm curious to see who they put in
with Itachi. Yeah, the thing is with Itachi
in the number one position
to the number two character is a lot of Itachi's, again, motives and what really defines him as a character is given very clearly to the audience. Again, through exposition, many times not of his own. It's usually other characters speaking about Itachi. And in that sense, part of me likes Itachi. Like, I love Itachi as a character, right? But part of me really feels like for a certain sector of the story, he feels more like a plot device to push Sasuke, which isn't a negative towards Itachi at all. But I feel like he's, in comparison to who's at number two, Itachi nails it all the time when he's on screen, and his motives are made very clear because, again, it was given a large expositional time to show what he's about, versus the person who's at number two, who, for some reason, is one of the most misanalyzed characters I can think of in shonen. Like, I've never seen a fan base
I feel like I know
miss a mark
who's
on a character so badly.
I feel like I know who's at number two. If that's the case, then number one can only be one other character.
In a second, I think that the best way to so I'll say this: Itachi is for Sasuke. What number two is for Naruto. I think you'll agree with me about that. And because Naruto is the main character, number two ends up just being more. And we'll talk more about him later. Let me just wrap up about Itachi. There is like a whole lot like of depth to him. And I do agree with what you said. A lot of the cool stuff about him does come from other characters, and that can be that can be a mark against him from a certain perspective because it sort of takes some of the agency away from him. But I also think that it kind of works to enhance him a little bit because it makes him feel even bigger than like just, you know, like he kind of like transcends being a person and is more like a force of nature because he just accomplishes and changes so much in and about the world.
So sorry, I just wanted to say this real quick, and I don't know if I mentioned this in a previous video, but specifically about this moment right here. But this is one thing that I love how you know, Kishimoto writes. Like when you go back and you reread the manga from, you know, beginning to end, you realize that there's a lot of things earlier on in the story that Kishimoto like foreshadows, like this right here specifically, like when Kakashi says, like, how far has your eyesight deteriorated? And you didn't know what that means at the time. But then, of course, when we get to the fight between Sasuke and Itachi, Itachi gives him the explanation of, you know, like, yeah, you can get the Mangekyo Sharingan, but it also comes with an insane drawback, which is that you slowly start to lose your eyesight. And yeah, and that the only solution to that is to take the eyes of someone like a relative, a close blood relative. So yeah, again, just something that I love about Kishimoto's writing, how much he foreshadowed early on in the story.
Some of the agency away from him, but I also think that it kind of works to enhance him a little bit because it makes him feel even bigger than like just, you know, like he kind of like transcends being a person and is more like a force of nature because he just accomplishes and changes so much in and about the world. And I mean, like the amount he was a really big deal, right? Like aside from Orochimaru, he was like the guy to take down throughout the beginning of part 1. And then I mean, like Orochimaru kind of took a back seat to him throughout the beginning of Shippuden, right? Like Orochimaru was there, but you knew like Sasuke's big target was Itachi, and their fight is really cool. And like the first fight that Itachi shows up in is also sick, right? Like when he does that exploding clone thing and like he teleports behind Kakashi and nothing personnel kids him with a shadow clone. Yeah, and like Tsukuyomi is also sick. So I definitely think like it would be a bit weird not to have him in at least top 3. He has so many good things going for him. And I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to rank him higher, but we'll get to why we like the 2 that are above him just a little bit more here in a second.
Yeah, I just want to add another thing about Itachi is Itachi also has, again, one of my favorite personal backstories, and the thing that really secures him and the other 2 above him in this top 3 is the narrative weight that they have within the series. Like Itachi is responsible for Sasuke's entire character. And everything that he does to move things within the narrative of Naruto is ginormous. So he definitely deserves where he is. And like you've been saying, he could definitely go higher. This might be to spite some of my homies, but yeah.
No, I get it. It's really personal. I agree with our ranking. But like I wouldn't. But what I'm saying is, you're not wrong if you think Itachi is, you know, above where we have him.
Right.
But I'm ready to talk about who we got at number 2.
Right,
this is my boy right here.
Yes, sir.
Let's get into Obito.
I knew Obito was going to be number 2.
And like you said, he is one of, if not the number one most misanalyzed, misunderstood characters in shonen, maybe even in fiction, period. People seem to like I don't get how people like hear him talk and hear him say the things he says and come away thinking the things that they do about him, but like okay, let's go ahead and get it out of the way for like
it's
the
2021, bro.
Right?
Oh, the mouth breathers.
He did not start.
Okay, so yeah, this was I forgot this was recorded a year ago. So yeah, it's technically 2022.
Over Rin. He says this to Kakashi. Like, as a matter of fact, Kakashi brings up Rin multiple times while they're talking, and Obito's like, "You're right still there. On that?"
Right. He's like, "Bro, I've been past." The fact that it's stated in the manga and in the he states it himself, and it's 2021, and people legitimately still think this. When you've had 4 years now, I think, to analyze that, you are a Crayola chomping crayon. Like, bro, it hurts. It hurts.
Imagine pouring in your milk before your Crayola crayons in your cereal bowl. I can't believe.
Captain Crayola, just Crayola flakes. No, but oh man, no, but even if the Rin thing was a case, it's almost as if people forgot everything Obito was before that. When he was Toby, when he was pretending to be Madara, this man was name dropped from near the beginning of Naruto, and he's one of the ties to Kakashi's mystery as a character, but also he's the perfect parallel to Naruto as the protagonist. Like, Obito has so much narrative weight to the story, and I think thematically he's beautiful in terms of falling into despair. He has some of the most unique movesets in the entire series. I mean, just one moveset with Kamui.
Oh yeah, man.
The fight against
Kamui
Kakashi
is so cool.
that's my #1 fight in the entire series, Kakashi versus
Really?
Obito.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, and it's
I mean,
like
yeah, it
there's
is.
so
It's a
much
good
great
pick.
things about
Great
Obito.
pick, but,
Are you really, even if it was the case, which we just debunked, would you really
Like-
throw all that out just because he was like, hey, yeah, Rin?
So I feel like I did ask you guys before, yeah, in the video that we watched, where we reacted to Swag's like top 5 fights in Naruto. I think we reacted to that. Yeah, I think. So for me personally, you know, I'll ask you guys again because there might be new people here to the channel. I'll ask you, in your opinion, what's the best fight in Naruto? Not the 5, just the #1. In your opinion, not necessarily your favorite. Again, since we're talking, like, this video is supposed to be from a narrative perspective. In your opinion, from a writing perspective, which fight do you think is the best one? Again, not necessarily your favorite, because there is a difference. Let me know about it in the comments. The #1 best fight in all of Naruto.
Like, what the? I just.
Because for me personally, I'll still give that to Gaara versus Lee. I still think that is narratively the best fight in the entire series.
Like, what's with the inconsistency, right? Because everybody likes Orochimaru, and he is like a confirmed How to Catch a Predator feature, right? Like
Sasuke,
that guy
Is he?
Yeah, right. Like he straight up has some like weird pedophile vibes going on, and those are very intentional. And then like all the Obito stuff, people are like, well, he seems to me, in my opinion, like he might be a pedophile, even though he says he's like, and even like it doesn't even. It's not even like he. It's so stupid because like even if he was still attached to Rin, like I feel like it would be. You'd kind of have to do mental gymnastics to not assume that that's like platonic at this point, right? Like
Right.
Like what Rin represents to Obito isn't like, oh, I want you to be my girlfriend. It's like she was the only person who in every situation was, you know, nice, was like didn't crack and become cynical, you know.
Right.
Like even Kakashi, who like right before he quote unquote died was probably like his best friend, you know. Kakashi was an asshole for a really long time, but Rin was just like, you know, she was like pure goodness. And he really did like want something with her, but I don't think he ever like held it against her, and I don't think he was.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know if
bitter
I'll be
that
able
they
to
didn't get together.
monetize
I
this
think
video.
it's sad, but like he just
Because
saw her as like an example of, you know, okay, this is the sort this is like an example of, you know, good in the world, which he didn't see a lot of. And when he saw Kakashi kill her, he like, I feel like his mind just snapped, and he couldn't comprehend it.
Right.
And you the other thing like people got to keep in mind too is it's
see right
not
there,
like his
like another double page spread, just beautiful. Please, I really hope the Boruto manga includes double page spreads. They need to. It's time. It's been long enough. It's time.
life was like good before that happened. It's not
He
like
grew
that's
up
the
in a
only
war,
bad
an
thing that happened.
orphan.
Yeah, he was a child soldier orphan, and like everybody probably like I'm sure there are a lot of people who will be able to relate to this. Like maybe if, you know, you have like a really distinguished or accomplished like older sibling, or if one of your parents is, you know, did anything that was like super really cool. But like Obito was an Uchiha, and so the standard that he probably had to live up to was like way higher than he ever asked for, guaranteed. And so like for him to be like a klutz and an idiot,
Which is
and
something
just,
that I
you know,
think him and
never be
Kakashi
able
had in
to
common.
live up
Like
to
he
what
had to
people
live up to the
expected from
Uchiha
him. I mean,
standards,
that
and
must have been,
Kakashi was
like,
the son
really rough
of,
for him.
you know,
And
Sakamo
I get, like,
Hatake,
people
who was
bullying you isn't
the
a
White
reason
Fang.
to turn
So
into a nihilist, but it can probably help, especially when you throw in like again being a child soldier and stuff. Like when you grow up being really insecure, feeling really dejected, it makes it a lot easier to start being a pessimist, right? And so, like,
you can
for
understand
all this
why
other stuff
Obito
that
would
happened
become
to
the way
him,
he
it
was.
makes sense for him to stand. I mean, like, at the end of the day, it's not like what he wanted was selfish either, right? Like, he wasn't just coping with the fact that Rin died. He really wanted to change the world. And now, granted, I'm not trying to say that he was like a noble, heroic fella throughout the whole series. He did some evil things, but this came as a result of like the character is the only example in Naruto of like a full-blown nihilist, right? Like he just straight up said, he's like, look, I can do whatever I want in this world because nothing matters. It just sucks.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna do whatever it takes. I don't care how evil I gotta be to make sure my utopia comes to fruition. And at the end of the day, everybody's gonna be in paradise, and it'll all be fine, right? Like I don't know. Like he's just super layered and complex, and he's a great foil to Naruto, probably better than anybody else because he was Naruto growing up.
Exactly.
And unlike Naruto, he did it. He wasn't consistent. He couldn't do it. He cracked.
He lost hope.
Fell apart. Yeah, exactly. He fell apart. And like especially with all the crazy stuff that happened in 2020, I'm sure a lot of people probably maybe hit like an emotional low point. So you can probably see why like Obito watching his best friend kill his other best friend, and maybe after with all this other stuff going on, it makes sense that he would just be like, oh wow, yeah, everything sucks. And
right.
I don't know. I don't have any issues with him, man. And also like speaking about, you know, the swag factor thing, you know, that Itachi and Sasori have, and like you see the Sharingan, like he's so enigmatic and mysterious, and he feels so powerful, and like the fact that you believe that this is like Madara who's been built up forever, like, man, he's so cool. I'll let you. I've rambled for so long, though. You can say some stuff about him.
No,
too,
yeah. This is he's kind of the character that inspired my channel icon, the Masked Man, and everything. Obito, for me, from the very get-go, is again just I don't want to restate everything you just said, but essentially my favorite scene in the entire series is when Obito murders all the Bloody Mist Ninja in a fit of rage. There's probably no more blood shed in the entire series than there is in that scene. And
no,
Obito,
this scene was it was
he says,
pretty freaking bloody.
This is hell. People need, like, I don't get how people miss this, but his entire ideology was being put into question by Madara. He works his ass off during God knows how long that time was when he was trapped in there, but with that giant boulder, and he escapes just to see the two people he was literally working for to see being like taken away from him. And so with everything that had already happened in his life, him being crushed in half and somehow surviving, like Obito has, if not every right, like many other characters in the series, to be the absolute pessimist that he is. And so when he does everything that he does within the story, I don't think any of it is out of character for Obito at all. Even in the end when he's Jubito and Naruto like talk no jutsus him, whilst although I can understand people's frustration with it, again, if anything,
I wasn't
Naruto's
a fan of
the
it.
one character who could reach out to Obito.
I agree, yeah, because like the Kakashi points this out too. When the Jubito fight is happening, Obito is like really determined to break Naruto's spirit. Like part of why he's fighting is because like it bothers him that Naruto is still so hopeful and optimistic, because like it's implied that there's a little bit of self-doubt there, right? Like Obito, I don't even know if Obito realizes that he's like questioning his own philosophy at that point, but he has done so much that he like cannot be wrong, so he has to win this debate with Naruto, right? Like he has to prove to Naruto that he is correct. And you know, when it comes down to it and they get in that confrontation, you know, like after all this stuff that Obito's done, all of the horrific things that he's caused to happen, all of the turmoil that he's caused Naruto, not just by killing Minato and Kushina, but also by manipulating Sasuke and starting the Fourth Great Ninja War.
And remember, his actions led to the suspicion of the Uchiha clan, which led to the Uchiha clan massacre.
Like, no, dude, seriously, straight up, it is okay. It's not too late. Join our side. I don't know. Like, I feel like like he probably saw like what I was describing that he saw in Rin in Naruto there. He was like, oh my god, I can't believe it. I also think, by the way, the scene where so he summons the sword of Ninoboko, and he's like, this is literally like the strength of my will. You are not beating me now, because like this is like ironclad, right? And you know, he goes to clash with Naruto and Sasuke, and he's probably gonna kill them. And then at the last second there, he has second thoughts. He's like, well, this is what my life could have been. I could have been Hokage maybe, you know, I could have, you know, been friends with Kakashi still. And like, you know, it's at that moment when his will to fight, like when his resolve weakens, that Naruto and Sasuke are able to beat him. I don't know, man. It's so cool. There's so much sick stuff about this character. There's so many awesome scenes.
Yeah, and then the way it ends with him sacrificing his life so Naruto could live on. I just, again, literally, outside of the stupid petty Rin thing, it's literally just a meme. Like, there's nothing you could say bad about his character. Nothing at all. Like, it's just, it
well, the one bad thing I can say is that, and they already brought it up, the whole Talk no Jutsu thing, I'm still not a fan of it. I hate it. I understand what Kishimoto is trying to do, but I feel like there is another way that he could have done that. Excuse me. You know, like maybe just have Obito like kind of come to the conclusion on his own, like do the whole like flashback thing, the second thoughts, and just have it to where Obito, like, he has this moment where he just, you know, looks at Naruto and he realizes, okay, this guy's not budging, and then he just, you know, takes a look back at his own life and he realizes, oh yeah, I did all these horrible things and I try to justify it because I'm putting people in this dream or whatever, and that's what causes him to sort of like you know, lose his will to fight, and that's what gives Naruto and Sasuke the opportunity, and the others of course, to pull the tailed beast out of him. And I feel like that would have been a lot better than just having, you know, like Talk no Jutsu session number 3,500,602 or whatever. It's, yeah, it's just would have been a lot better in my opinion.
Boggles me. It really does. It really does.
I think there's some people that are salty because they really like Minato and Kushina. And don't
Neji.
get me wrong, I love me some. Yeah, Neji too. Then don't get me wrong, I love me some Minato. He's my outro, as a matter of fact.
Right.
And it would have been really cool if Naruto would have gotten to know his parents. But like, I mean, Obito would like. That's really weird to like hold like an evil character doing evil things against them. And I know this is probably gonna sound like a non-point, right? Like people are gonna be like, "Swag, you're preaching to the choir here." I've run into some people who are like, "No, I can't like Obito. He killed Minato, dude. It's stupid. That was his master, and he flipped it." Like, I don't know, man. Like whatever. And Obito also kind of had a valid reason too, with like the grudge thing, with like, you know, Minato didn't show up in time to save him. He didn't show up in time to save Rin from Kakashi. And, you know, I don't blame Obito for having some, like, pent-up aggression, like, directed at this guy. And by the way, that fight, as short as it is so cool.
It is pretty damn cool.
Obito one?
Yeah.
Are you talking you're talking, like, young Obito, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. People forget Obito was, like, 13. Yeah,
I know.
That's
he was so young, right? Like,
and he was swapping hands with the fourth Hokage. I mean, Jesus.
At the same time, right? Like,
although, granted, when you think about the fact that he got training from Madara, it's like,
dude was packing on a.
It's kind of understandable.
I mean, like even when you're under the impression that he's not as strong as he actually is, like in the 5 Kage Summit, where he's just sort of letting.
And also, like, he was being powered up by Hashirama Cell, so
do all the legwork. Like, he's still really impressive. You know, like when he teleports into Anoki's death cube and saves Sasuke.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, man, I don't know what to tell people. If you don't like this character, you are lame. He's so sick.
Now we move on to number 1, and despite how much I love Obito, I couldn't. For me, there's no antagonist that embodies their own philosophy to the point that they name their self after their own philosophy, and that's Pain.
Yeah.
Pain is without a doubt, for me, one of the best antagonists, period, in anime and manga.
Yeah, I agree. I personally would put Obito above Pain, but I do think that Pain at number 1 might be correct, like, speaking objectively, because, I mean, man, like, the second you see him, like, the amount of presence he has, like, just through his design alone, the Rinnegan is so scary. And, like, all the piercings and...
kind of got, like, kind of got devalued a bit lately, but whatever.
You know, like you take a look at him and you're like, oh yeah, this is this is
the big boss. This is the guy. Yeah.
This is, if you want to split Naruto into 3 parts, right? Like part 1, and then you got the first half of Shippuden pre-war, and then the war half of Shippuden. Pain is, I mean, like everybody knows this, but he's like the final boss of like that second part there. But like the reason I'm saying this is because he really feels like it the moment you see him.
Right.
You know, like a lot of people talk about how you know, how good the scene where Madara first shows up is, because he makes it very clear very quickly that he's no joke. You know, they're not gonna get rid of him like without a crazy fight. Like this dude is gonna make it hard to take him out. And the thing is, in order to do that, Madara has to like kill a whole platoon of ninja, but like Pain just like walks into frame, and you're like, oh my god.
Right. So yeah, Pain gave one of the best presences ever. I love his backstory, and I always loved how, as an antagonist, he still felt like he was the protagonist, which is part of the whole Cycle of Hatred speech. When you talk about iconic anime speeches, Cycle of Hatred is one of the very first that anyone would think of. Most people would consider Pain Assault arc their strongest arc in Naruto, or at least one of the top ones. And just everything about Pain speaks to a top quality antagonist. I mean, he pulled up and vibe checked a whole village with one move. Like, as soon as he did that, you knew what was up. And his ability to push Naruto to his breaking point was amazing. I thought that was one of the things where seeing him completely dominate Naruto, who had just trained so hard to get revenge on Jiraiya, you know, and then to find out Pain had a connection to Jiraiya before Naruto even knew. Like, all of that was just so amazing into building up the tension between Pain and Naruto. And so I don't know how you could use anything to argue against Pain. It's just
it is kind of hard to argue
with him at all.
And like we were talking about why complexity lends, why the complexity of Obito and Itachi helps make them so good. And I mean, Pain's got layers and layers and layers of depth to him. Like, the guy is a walking juxtaposition, right? Like, you've got this dude walking around killing people, talking about peace, and like it's so creepy and cool and bizarre and, you know, like, mind-boggling. You're like, dude, this doesn't make any sense, but like, I get where he's coming from at the same time. Because I mean, like, so like, you know, when you talk about somebody like Data or Kisame having charisma, like, it's just a neat character trait. But when you talk about like Nagato having charisma, you're saying he's charismatic enough to like turn people into revolutionaries and to get you to see his point of view and to get you to feel like he might be justified in murdering a bunch of people just to scare people so much that they stop fighting, right? And you know, like when like, you don't ever really see this sort of thing happen, like, not in fiction in general, but I should say in, like, shonen or, like, fantasy stories that follow, like, the hero's journey type of, like, plot mold, where, you know, the main character's like, I'm gonna save the world, and the villain just goes like, oh, how? You know, you don't see that very often. But Naruto's like, no, I'm gonna bring about an age of peace, and Pain's just like, oh, I'm curious. How did you
how? He actually asked him, like, how are you gonna do it?
Doesn't have an answer.
Nope.
And like that moment is really powerful, and you know, Naruto himself even realizes that like Pain caught him lacking there. That he was like, oh wait, I'm proving his point. I didn't think this here, through,
And I really, really do love that scene, because it's like, you know, you hear so many times, and not just shonen, but just in like these stories where, you know, you have the young kid who wants to be a hero or whatever, who wants to save the world, and who wants to, you know, stop the fighting between, like, you know, wherever they are, whether it's just within their country or the whole world. And you never have a character walk up to them and actually ask them how. Like, how are you really going to do this? Like, you've been talking about this, but I'm curious, like, how are you going to do it? And it's like, sometimes you're used to them hearing, like, you know, pretty generic answers, like, oh, I want them to understand each other or whatever, and blah, 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 like some generic good guy shit. And Naruto, I feel like, is the only character I've seen, and maybe there are others that I haven't seen yet. I'm sure there are, because I haven't read everything, obviously. Like, Naruto, I feel like, again, for me personally, out of all the ones that I've seen, is the only character who just outright said, I don't know. Like, I really don't know. I don't have an answer. When Pain asked him, like, how are you going to get rid of the world's hatred? because we're talking about like centuries or at least decades of people just continuously hating and fighting each other. How are you going to get rid of it? And Naruto's like, okay, yeah, I don't know. And I love that because I feel like it's so much more impactful. And like Pain, here's the thing. Well, the thing that's great about Pain is that while you may not agree with him, you do get where he's coming from, and there is some logic between, you know, or there is some logic to what he's saying. Like he's not just spewing BS. Like you at least get where he's coming from. You may not agree with it, but you get it. And I think that's one of the things that makes Pain such a fantastically written villain.
Yeah, yeah.
Or not necessarily, well, villain, antagonist, a little bit of both.
And you know, for like by the time that Naruto walks into the hideout at the end, he gets where Pain is coming from, you know, like at least in terms of like the pain and like hatred that he feels. Like Naruto's like, I have never hated somebody the way that I hate you. And Pain's just like, yeah, exactly, you know, like, welcome to my life.
Right.
And you know, like, for like, he just has such a substantial effect on Naruto. And what's crazy about it is, unlike Obito and unlike Itachi, these characters who did things that were very formative to Naruto and Sasuke, Pain shows up like really late into the series and still manages to have this really tight connection with Naruto.
Right. They built his entire character, you know, because even though I would argue Naruto, or not Naruto, correction, Obito is a much better parallel to Naruto. Pain and Nagato were just like, I wouldn't say just as good, but Pain and Nagato, or well, Nagato, I should say, was also meant to be a parallel to Naruto in a sense, right? Child of Prophecy, student of Jiraiya. And so there's something that instantly connects with Pain. And again, I think it's through his entire message, right? Because like you said, he caught Naruto lacking, but then provided his own answer. And like I said, Cycle of Hatred, one of the best answers you could give. Like, how he just pulled up, massacred an entire village, told Naruto, all right, lay down, I'm gonna give you a lesson, and had the entire audience like, you know what, this motherfucker's spitting. Like, if he didn't just murder everybody we cared about. And so it's one of those things where he has this ability to communicate his philosophy in a way that demands attention. And if an antagonist is able to do that without sounding pretentious or really forced and trying to sound more deep than they are, I think that's a huge plus. And I think Pain does that in an amazing fashion. And then once that entire issue resolves and he realizes,
he's drawn a little
okay,
weird here.
Naruto can do this, you know, and I was wrong. And Naruto's the protagonist of this story, not me. You know, and then he sacrifices his life to save the village. I know some people have an issue with it, but again, I think thematically it works for a resolution of Nagato's character.
Because he was trying to do the right thing is the thing, right? Like, this guy wasn't doing it for the sake of being evil. He wasn't a mustache twirler like Orochimaru, for example. Like, he really did think what he was doing was the right thing. And so when Naruto comes in there and just, you know, just full of conviction is like, dude, no, seriously, what you're doing is wrong. I hate you. I can't believe you do this to Pervy Sage and kill him. You know, he trusted you, blah, blah, blah. You know, and explains like, look, I don't have the answer right now, but I am going to find it. And what are you going to do about it? I beat you. And like, he's just like, man, like it makes sense. You know, the same way with Obito, like Naruto just connects with people, right? And I think, you know, if there was one guy who was going to change Nagato's mind, it was him. So, like, I do get the people were kind of mad that a lot of the major deaths were, like, Disney deaths and all the characters ended up coming back. But, again, I get it. Maybe if you took away the Rene rebirth thing, I don't know, maybe, you know, Pain would be a little bit better, I guess, but also, man, I don't know. I didn't want Kakashi to die. I was cool with him.
Right, yeah. It's not like the case in the war arc where my guy dies and Naruto becomes Jesus and brings it back. Like, no, that's not what's happening here. Like, it's like
yeah, it's just like everybody likes Kakashi. Let him.
Yeah, exactly. He's needed, and also it's not like it came out of nowhere. I feel like the whole
Yeah.
Rinnegan ability, being able to restore people's one of the powers of the Rinnegan, so it ends up working out.
And I think a lot of people would probably consider Naruto versus Pain their favorite fight in the series, and there's a reason for that. Not just because of the thematic, like ideological conflict between the characters, but also because the fight is really fucking cool.
It is pretty good.
So,
Yeah, it's very well
Pain's
written.
great. I don't mind putting him up here at number 1. I think a case could be made for Obito being the best. And if you really wanted, I guess you could also say Itachi's number 1. I think it's between Pain and Obito. Again, I don't mind putting him up here. I feel in my heart like maybe he might be the objective number 1. It's really hard to say. But the point is, I definitely don't blame anybody for putting him at the top, because he is great, and he's like one of. I think the thing is, more than Obito, he's one of like the iconic anime manga villains. And again, that's not all Obito's fault. That's a lot of people who aren't Obito's fault. The people who read the series and didn't get who he was. But regardless, the fact still remains that I think people remember Pain. More people remember Pain really fondly and see him as like representative of a lot of the good in Naruto. I think like I said, there's definitely a case to be made for him being number 1 here.
But yeah, we went on for a bit. We had a lot to say about these guys.
Pre-edited, this is a little bit over an hour. I don't know if any of this is going to be cut, but thanks for having me on.
Hey man,
I like talking about Naruto. I do it for a living, so this was fun.
Hey man, anytime for me. This is a big honor, and I know some of my homies are going to be doing backflips seeing this. So yeah, man, great to have you aboard. As always, I'm going to be leaving the link to Swag Kage's channel down in the description below. And if you are new to this channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the bell notifications. That way you're notified whenever a new video pops up on some of your favorite anime, manga, or whatever content. As always, this has been The Masked Man. Hope everyone has a blessed rest of the I messed it up. This is the first time I've messed up my outro. From the top. Screw it. Peace. Bye.
Sorry, I forgot I had the mic muted. But yeah, hey, listen, you guys have, if you've been following me for a while, you know that it's pretty normal to not only mess up your outro, but your intro, because, hey, I mean, you can't get it right all the time. But yeah, this was a good video, and not to mention really, really long. We're nearly an hour and a half. We're nearly at the hour and a half mark. But yeah, so when it comes to the actual list, I don't really have a lot of problems with it. For me personally, yeah, the whole thing, with the who they have at number 3 to number 1, they had Itachi, Obito, and then Nagato. I don't know. I mean, for me personally, I do agree with them, everything they said about Obito. I think I was asked to watch another video by Swag Kage where him and Seth kind of went over Obito and how his character is completely misunderstood. And I do agree with them. I do believe Obito is very misunderstood as a character. People still do the whole, oh, he's obsessed with Rin and everything, even though he literally says he didn't start the war for Rin. I mean, it's pretty much confirmation right there. If people still want to go on with that narrative, I guess there you go. I mean, I can't really stop you. It's your life, but just know that you're wrong. Whatever. But yeah, this was a good list, and I got to admit, I wasn't expecting Sasori to be that high up, but granted, they did make a pretty good case. He is a pretty cool character, and yeah, I mean, a lot of people do forget that he was just like him. Like a lot of characters didn't really take the fight all that seriously, and he did kind of let them win. Like a lot of people, again, they forget context when it comes to talking about some things that happen in a series. But yeah, anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have, like I said, any other videos you want me to react to, just let me know about them in the comment section down below, and I will get to them. And if you enjoy these videos, if you enjoy any kind of content that I do on this channel, and if you want to show your support, just remember to leave a like, share this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and make sure to click the bell icon to be notified whenever I post a new video. And if you are subscribed, just check to make sure you are still subscribed, because YouTube is apparently still doing this thing where they're unsubscribing people without notifying them. So just check to make sure you're still subscribed, and check the description for links to this video, as well as the link to the Masked Man's channel, as well as Swakage's channel. Anyway, guys, like I said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope I'll see you for my next one. Bye for now.